All right, so I had forgotten to record last week's lesson, so I'm just going to do a quick run through on everything we covered. So first, I'm just going to make a quick cylinder, purely just for the sake of demo. I'm going to make it 1.5, like a 1.5 diameter circle. All right, check. And I will extrude it up 3 inches. Now, I can't promise all these dimensions are going to be the same as the last class that this is replacing, but everything we do will be the same. So just did a quick review of the reference geometry that we've been working with. So remember we have our axis. We kind of covered that in the last lesson where one way we could do it, the most common way that I ever do it is you can create an axis that's like a center line for a cylinder. So if I click the outside face of that cylinder, hit check, get a center line. Look at that. Now, another thing we can do with reference geometry, which I think is far more powerful, is the planes. Planes are very powerful. So let's say I wanted to make a plane that's kind of flat on this face. So I can make kind of like a drawing on it. Because notice if I click on this face and I hit sketch, it won't let me do it. So I need a flat plane there. So let's make a plane on this surface. So see how it's tangent, but it's not fully defined. It says I need to select more references. So one thing I could do, if I go to my drop down, and for me, notice it's my front plane, right? See how my front plane and the plane I'm trying to make are parallel? Well, let's tell the computer that I want that to be the case. So I click front plane and I say they're going to be parallel. And if you look at that, fully defined. I have a perfectly made plane. Cool. Now I'm not going to use this axis later on, so I'm just going to hide it. That was more just to show you guys how to do it. So let's do a sketch on this plane. Now, what I'd like to do is do a pattern of 6 holes. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, kind of like a 6 on a die. So I'm going to make a circle here. Let me go normal to it. That'll make it easier to work on. And let's take a look. So I'm going to say that you will be 0.5 away from there. And I'm just dimensioning my circle just to make sure it's fully defined. That'll be, I'll make that 0.5 as well. Sure. You can be 0.5 as well. So I'm going to make this 0.25. I think I did 0.5 last time, but my cylinder is very little. It's like, I'll make this the same 0.25. Okay. Now, we have a circle. Now I could draw 6 more circles. That would be one way to do this. A much easier way to do this is with linear sketch pattern. So let's do that. So linear sketch pattern, what I can do is first I can select the entities I want to pattern, which is my circle. Now notice right now it has 2 in the x direction, right? Number of entities. I only want 1 in the x direction for now, right? What I want though is I want 3 in the y direction. Now see how they're going the wrong way. So we'll flip that and I'm going to increase my spacing to 1 inch. And that looks fantastic, that spacing. One thing I could do now is if I hit 2 here, look at, say, spacing. Okay, I have my 6 circles, just like that, done, easy, right? Now that is a very easy way to do 6 circles, right? Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, cool. And this would be done, kind of, right? Instead, I'm only going to linear pattern with just 3 circles here. I'm just going to do 3 circles, just because I want to show another feature on how we can get the other 3 to appear here. But this would probably be the easiest way to do it in this case. So for the x direction, I'm going to drop back down to 1. There we go. Check. And notice, though, it's not fully defined. Now, remember when we set that distance in the in that linear pattern? It spaces them out like that, but it doesn't lock them in at that distance. So we need to manually put in that as a spark dimension. So I'll just say they're going to be 1 inch apart. And notice that that fully satisfies all of them because they're all going to be equally spaced. It just needed me to lock in that dimension. Now, let's look at how we can get them on the other side. Because remember, I want to show you a second feature. So let's make a construction line right in the center. I'm going to do mirror entities now, which kind of does exactly what you think it would do. I can click the entities I want to mirror, 3 circles. What do I want to mirror about? My center line, and boom, done. Nice and easy. That is another easy way of doing this. And notice they're fully defined, and that's just because they need to be equidistant from the center compared to the. Basically, it's looking at a mirror. I think mirror is usually easier than pattern. The only reason why it would have been easier before is because I could have just done it with a single pattern, right? Originally, instead of a pattern plus a mirror, but I really like mirrors. They're very useful. So are patterns, but I probably use mirrors more often. Both very powerful tools, though. Highly recommend playing around with both and just kind of seeing how they feel. Let's do an extruded cut. Now, I don't want them to go all the way through. We're just going to have them go a little bit into the cylinder. And now notice, right, if I look down from the top, they're starting on this plane outside of it. So, you know, they're not really almost like tailored to the surface of the cylinder. So if I only said like maybe 0.1 in, 0.1, notice they actually wouldn't cut into the cylinder at all. So in a way, some parts of this plane are further away from the cylinder than others. So you need to make sure you're kind of accounting for that when you're doing your distances. Just something to be careful of. So we'll cut extrude 0.5. Look at that. Okay, 6 holes. It's a little wonky, but no worries. That'll do. Let's try doing another thing. What if I wanted these holes to also appear on the backside? Remember, I don't want it to go all the way through. I just want to see these same 6 holes on the other side. But I don't want it to be the same hole here and here. I don't want it to go clean through. Because that would be easy to do. I could just select through the wall. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try mirroring these onto the other side. You can mirror features along with sketches. So if I click my feature, the cut, I can go drop down linear sketch pattern, click mirror. And look, it already has features to mirror because I had selected it. Now I need to select the plane I want to mirror about. If we look through, look at that front plane. Right, we can kind of get a better view of it. If I were to mirror it about the front plane, it would flip onto the other side, just how I want it. I'm going to select the front plane, right? It gives you a little preview. That looks exactly like what I want. I'm going to hit check, and boom. Look at that. We can also mirror our features, which is very, very useful. Just to throw it in there, you could also pattern features. Let's say I wanted to do a linear pattern here with our features. I could, strictly speaking, so the weird thing is you need to have a direction vector. So let's actually unhide our axis. Unhide, we'll show. We could also just, so what are we gonna, what features and faces do we want to pattern? We want to pattern our cut. What direction do we want to go in? Let's go the direction of the axis. And now it's going to be a little weird, but let's make our distance a little bit smaller. Let's just say maybe 0.5. Right, and we didn't design this for the sake of this, but notice it's a little bigger. Let's say we had a much longer cylinder, right? I can make this distance then 3 inches. Look at patterned our 6 holes and kind of repeated them again in that direction. Spacing of 3 inches. Obviously, this wouldn't cut into anything because there's nothing down here, but so we're not actually going to do this, but that's how you could use the feature map. Basically the same way. The only difference is before, when you're doing it in Sketch, it automatically gives you the X and Y directions. Here, though, you need to kind of select the line, and it's going to do the pattern in the direction of that line. So, for example, this line is vertical, so it's going to do it in the vertical direction. And I could actually flip this direction too if I wanted to go upwards. So it's pretty useful. I can't really use it here, but you can kind of imagine, what if I had wanted to, I could have done a cut extrude with just a single hole here, and then patterned that feature to get my 6 holes. If you'd wanted to do that, just, you know, as options, right? You could have done you know, single cut here and then pattern the feature instead of doing the patterning in the sketch. I don't know off the top of my head. I know one's better than the other just because it's just easier for your computer to do and it takes less storage, but I don't remember which it is. I know I personally usually go for just doing the patterns in the sketches though. So let's try one more thing. So I'm going to make a quick circle in here. I'm going to say it's going to have a diameter of 1 inch. On that circle, I'm going to make a smaller circle. In that circle, I'm going to give a diameter of 0.25 again. Cool. Oh, 5 didn't work. 0.25. Cool. I'm going to make this circle here construction. What I want to do is I want to pattern this circle around so I get 6 circles, but I want them in like a circular formation. What I can do is under linear sketch patterns, there's also a circular sketch pattern, right? Now parameters, it's going to ask you for point. That's the point that you're doing the circle around. So our point there is that center point there. But in some cases, maybe it's somewhere else, right? And occasionally, let's just see what would happen if I placed a point here. We do our circular sketch pattern. Pattern. We want to pattern our circle. Now notice, instead of picking that point to go around, I can pick this one and notice the circle forms around this point instead. So in our case, we certainly want this one. We want a circle, but or in a kind of like a centered circle, but yeah, you can do it around any point you want. You just have to select the point under parameters. Then I want 6 circles. So I'll hit 6, and now I have 6. Which is really useful. Notice this is going a full 360. Maybe I want 6 circles, but only over 270 degrees. That make them a little cramped, but look, I can do that, you know? This is just 270 degrees. I have 90 degrees left, or 180. A bit cramped, but now I have 6 circles over 180 degrees. Maybe I want it to be 180 degrees on the opposite side. I can click that to make it go on the other side. Lots of options with the circular sketch. Very useful tool. But I'm going to keep that, and I'm just going to cut all the way through this one. And there we go. Now I have interesting shape. I'm not sure what this could be, but interesting shape nonetheless. And yeah, so we've kind of covered how to do reference geometry with our planes and axes and how that they're used. And with that reference geometry, you can make this in so many different ways. Maybe I want a plane that's on this, that's like kind of offset from this face. Maybe I want a plane that's 1 inch away from this face here. Well, I can do that. I can choose an offset of 1 inch. Okay, now I have a plane that's 1 inch away from this face. Maybe I want it to be directly on the face. At this point, I'd rather just sketch on the face itself, but maybe you need a plane there, who knows? Another really useful one. Maybe I want a plane that's in the center of this. So if I select this plane up here, this face, and the face on the opposite side, I can select mid-plane instead, and look at it. It's going to make a plane that's right in the middle of these 2 faces. Maybe I want to do a sketch right in the middle of the object. So lots of useful things with reference geometry, especially with planes. Practice that a lot. And the same definitely goes for working with your patterns, because ultimately anything you do with a pattern, you could just do by hand. Like it's one of those features where it's like not required per se to make anything, but it's going to save you a lot of time. And when you need to, like, say, go back, right? Let's say I go back into the sketch where I made all those holes to begin with, right? Maybe I want these to actually not be a 1/4 inch. Maybe I want these to be, I don't know, maybe I want it to be a full inch. Way too big, hold on. Maybe 0.75. That'll still be too big, but just as an example. Definitely too big, but look at, notice they all updated, right? So I didn't have to go around and change all these dimensions. Obviously, I could have set all their diameters to be equal like that. Like I had kind of mentioned before with the equations, but yeah, kind of breaks some stuff. But look how easy that was, right? And look at the ones on the opposite side also updated. I'm gonna go put that back to normal because That's just too big of a dimension. But very, very useful tools. Yeah, so reference geometry and patterns were pretty much what we covered here. Yeah, I'd say that's all I have here. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about this recording, I definitely would have been quicker here than the actual class because there's no one to ask me questions or slow me down, or not slow me down, but kind of keep me at a good pace. So this might have been a little bit too quick, you know, but it's a little tougher to keep a good pace when there's no one there to like ask questions or, sit or stuck on something. So feel free to pause or whatever. And yeah, if you need any help, just shoot me a message on Slack. I think that's everything. So, yeah.